Hey guys, Ryan Isaac here. So if you're not familiar with me, my name's Ryan Isaac. I've helped multiple agencies book over hundreds of meetings, as well as add tens of thousands of dollars to their bottom line just by using automated system. So I'm on a mission right now to help other agencies owners add an extra 10K in MRR to their business using automated acquisition systems. So in today's video, I'll be explaining to you exactly why most people fail when it comes to actually picking the right niche and the mistakes that you need to avoid and what you actually need to do to make sure that your niche works out for the better. So it's going to be not a quick video. It's going to be kind of long, just explaining to you guys exactly the mistakes that you do not need to do to actually make sure that your niche works the best possible. So I actually have a sheet with me right here. I'm opening it now. And I'll go through it as a step-by-step, kind of like a bulleted point list to make sure that you guys get the whole point. So the first thing is the game analogy, right? The reason why your niche is so important is not because of the clients that are in it. It's not because of the specific rising market or tide that is coming with that specific niche, but it's actually your own skill that matters more than the niche. So the reason why I recorded this video and why I decided to actually make sure that you guys got an insight in this process is because of an experience that happened to me on Christmas Eve. So as most people do, if you're like in a Christian religion, or either if you're around the world, not even need to be in a religion, you probably celebrated Christmas, right? So same thing with me. I went to my family's house. I went to my auntie's house. And when I was there was a very specific experience that happened to me that led me to actually create this video. So I was sitting on the couch, right, as normal people do, and I was watching my cousins play. I think it was a Naruto or like kind of a game, Street Fighter or something like that. And there was my little cousin. We're gonna just invent a name for her. Let's say Linda, my little cousin. She was playing the game with my older cousin, which is like 7, which his name is like, let's say, Doug. So Linda and Doug were playing, and Doug was absolutely destroying Linda in this game, and it was absolutely crazy. And Linda was, well, not so happy with Doug destroying her in that game, and she always wanted to essentially switch to the character that Doug was playing to make sure that she also had a chance to actually beat Doug in this game. But the thing is, and she didn't understand this, was that it wasn't actually the character that Doug was playing that made Doug so good, but it was actually the skill that Doug learned from all of the mistakes and all of the trials and all of the days that he played that game that made him able to absolutely destroy Linda. So Linda was going, and she was always trying to switch characters. She was always trying to go for the character that Doug was playing, but Doug was just like, yo, I'm going to destroy you either ways. So it's kind of the same thing with niches, right? It doesn't matter your character. It doesn't matter essentially the powers that character has. It doesn't matter if it's in a rising tide. If you don't know how to play the game, you are not going to win. You're not going to beat the market. You're not going to get the clients, because if you don't have the core skills that you actually need to get clients, if you don't have the core values, the core actual ethics and morals that you need to acquire clients, it doesn't matter what character you have. You could have the strongest character, the whole game, the best niche, the best untapped niche, the best unsaturated niche. You're still going to lose because you don't have the right sales systems. You don't have the right scripts. You don't have the right process to actually make sure that you can turn those prospects, those leads into actual paying clients. So stop trying to hop niches. Stop trying to essentially find the best characters. Stop trying to essentially go towards different directions, because it's not the niche that matters, but it's your own skills, right? I was in some of the most saturated niches, and I still am. For example, like realtors, like coaches, like med spas. And I can tell you that you can still book meetings. Like, you don't need the most unsaturated niche in the whole world for you to actually be able to book meetings. All you need is the skills and the processes that will actually help you to book those meetings in that saturated niche, because let's be honest, a saturated niche doesn't exist. Only saturated systems do. Okay? And I'm going to get into this process, into this whole mind thinking thing in the whole video. So it's going to be all broken down for you. But you got to understand that saturated niches don't exist. Okay? They don't. It's not a thing, right? If a niche was saturated, it means that every single prospect would have been sold on some kind of product. They've already been in a product, they're in a product, and they just couldn't be sold again. So if people can be sold again or just be sold for the first time, it's not saturated. If people can hop on calls and have at least one drop of interest into your product, it's not saturated, right? It's the systems to actually get those clients to convert, which are saturated. No, there's no niche that exists that is saturated, except if your niche has like 2 prospects in it and both of them are sold, right? Like, there's no niche that really exists that is saturated. And again, you could just sell different services to these 2 people and it wouldn't be saturated because you can sell like infinite services to people. We'll get into that after. You can't really, but we'll get into that after. So the 4th point is really essentially that you need the right skills, right? So we went to like the first point, which was like the game analogy. We went to the second point, which is essentially the story. And now we're going into the 3rd and the 4th, which is essentially your skills. So if you don't have the right skills, you're not going to be able to make it, right? Because your skills are really the most important thing that you can have as a business owner to make sure that you actually win. So for example, you can't go into the niche with no sales skills, right? You literally can't, because if you don't even have 1 ounce of sales skills, you're not going to make it. Even if you don't know that you have the sales skills, you're still going to have them, because let's say that you had 0 sales skills, and I see this often. For example, you would send like a paragraph to your prospect without him even knowing who you are. So for example, I know you might have received these messages of like people selling you VA services, website services, or anything of that matter, just sending you like 2-page long paragraphs explaining their service, and it's really not going to work because you're just giving these people information out of nowhere, right? If you have a social life, if you know how to date, even, you're going to know how to sell. Because if you're selling yourself to people on a day-to-day basis in social groups, if you're selling yourself to women, you're going to have sales skills, right? It doesn't matter if you think you do or not, you're going to have sales skills, right? So if you have a social life, if you are good with women, you're going to have sales skills, right? So sales skills is really one of the biggest skills that you could have, as well as copywriting, just to make sure that your clients actually can convert from your message that you send them all the way to the call. But I'd say that sales skills is essentially the most important thing that you can have if you want to actually make sure that you have clients. So essentially, coming to the 5th point, which is kind of a roundup of all the other points, is that the niche really doesn't matter. It's you. Okay? It's you. Like, you can have the best niche ever. You can have a niche which has 1 million prospects. Nobody knows it. It's a brand new service, let's say AI automation. And if you don't have the sales skills, you're not going to win. Because it just won't happen. You need the sales skills to actually be able to actually convert these prospects. So I'm going to be honest, there might be like some chance of luck or just some like a volume game where you could just go at it without any sales skills and win. Because I'm going to be honest, even if you suck at sales and you do enough volume, let's say that you suck at sales, you do 1 million cold calls, you're going to convert some prospects. It doesn't matter. But if you truly want to make sure that you get an efficient return for your time, for your money, for your attention, you need to make sure that you yourself have the skills to actually make sure that you convert these prospects well. Because let's say you could have the best DM script. You could have the best, let's say, cold calling script. But if yourself, you suck at sales, you can't close a deal for the life of you, you're going to hit a bottleneck where you're, let's say, booking 1,000 meetings, booking 100 meetings per month, or even per 2 months, let's be realistic, and you can't close one of them. And it's either because your offer sucks, or because essentially you suck at sales. Now, of course, there's a bunch of other variables that play into this, but most of the time it comes down to one of these 2 things. So essentially, if you want to make sure that your cold outreach works, that you actually can book meetings and that you can close prospects and that you can go into the right niche, you need to make sure that you have the skills first to actually make that niche work, right? For example, let's say that you had a race, right? Well, you had to participate in a race. And there were the best cars in the world, right? There was GTRs, there was Lamborghinis, Ferraris, F1 cars, but there was also the best drivers, right? There was Lewis Hamilton, there was other F1 drivers, there was really, really good, how do you say that? Like rally drivers, it doesn't matter what car you had. If you had a Ferrari, if you had an F1 car, if you had a Ford Focus RS, you wouldn't win. Because these people, even though let's say you gave them a shit car compared to your good car, they would probably beat your ass, right? Because they actually know how the whole sphere of racing works. So it doesn't matter when you get in that car at the moment, you feel the steering wheel, you feel, oh, I'm going to win this race because my car has 1,000 horsepower. But you look over to your left and you see Lewis Hamilton, even though he's driving like a Toyota Camry, he's probably going to beat your ass because he's had tens of thousands of hours, not only on the racetrack, but in simulations and actually going through those situations where he actually needs to win the race, where he needs to overtake people, where he needs to go into corners, that it doesn't matter what car you have, he's probably gonna win over you, right? So it's really not the systems, it's really not the processes, it's really not what you do, it's more how you do it. It's more the skills that actually you have to make sure that you can actually win. So that brings us to essentially our 7th point, which is investing in yourself. So to make sure that you actually acquire these skills, you can't just walk around. Let's say you go to a Starbucks and you'll find these skills, right? They need to be acquired, they need to be learned, and they need to be taught by somebody else to you to make sure that you actually learn them. Now, of course, you could learn them over trial and error. You could learn them over decades of actual experience. You could learn them from your own personal life, own personal experiences. For example, sales, you can just go talk to your friends, try to sell them something. But if you want to make sure that you actually fast track your success, that it doesn't take you like years and years and years and years and years on end to perfect a specific discipline, you need to make sure that you invest in yourself, whether that be reading books, whether that be going to courses, going through mentors, going through YouTube videos even, because there's a lot of value on YouTube. You need to make sure that you actually invest in yourself, okay? Because if you don't invest in yourself, if you don't actually take that leap of going and improving yourself, you're going to hit a bottleneck where you're going to be, as said, booking like hundreds of meetings, but you don't actually know how to convert those meetings. So you get a bunch of information to yourself, you get a bunch of scripts, you get a bunch of specific inflections that you can do, but you don't actually know how to use them. So you need to have those skills first to actually make sure that you can apply them to the right situations, for example, sales, to the right moment when you're talking with the prospect on DMs, when you're cold calling them, to make sure that you can actually see more success in your life. So it really doesn't matter, just to reinforce this point, what process you have. It really doesn't matter what car you have. If we go back to the example, it matters what skills you have. Because if you don't have the skills, your whole life is going to crumble because you don't actually know how to manage it. So that's basically it. Now, coming to the 8th point, which is really important, what skills do you actually need to invest in? All right, because we're talking about investing in skills. We're talking about if you don't actually have the skills, you're not going to win. But what skills do you actually need to invest in? So, if I was going to be honest, I'd say that most people overcomplicate their life, especially when starting in SMMA, and they think that they need like 1,001 skills, right? They need a website, they need service delivery, they need everything else. But the truth is, the most important skill that you will invest in yourself when you're starting your own SMMA is sales, right? Because sales can be applied throughout your whole journey to actually get the clients, and as well as in the service delivery. So from actually sending the DMs, let's say you're doing DMs, you're sending DMs, you're using sales to craft the message. You're talking with that prospect on a phone call just to make sure that they're actually interested, you're using sales. You're going on the meeting with the actual prospect, you're using sales to actually close them. And when you're doing the service delivery for their ads, you're actually using sales again, just to make sure that their actual clients can convert into their business to actually make them more money. So in all of the cases that you're actually going through the client journey, that you're even helping your own clients in the service delivery part, you're using sales. Meaning that in myself, if I were to start again my journey back from zero, I would go into sales directly. Because sales is just going to fast track your journey. You're going to be able to essentially make sure that you can get from that point A to that point B really, really fast. Because let me just look at the camera right now. Sales is going to be your best friend. Okay? If you go through the client journey, if you send DMs, if you're doing cold calls, if you're getting on clients, not on clients, if you're getting on meetings with clients, sales is going to be your best friend. Okay? It's going to be your best friend because it means that no matter the situation, no matter the conversation, you're going to be able to actually make sure that the prospect is actually a bit interested or that you can get over those objections. Because let's be honest, the majority of your SMMA is people to people, right? It's you talking to somebody else. So if you can't efficiently talk to somebody else to evoke an emotion in them, to make them actually feel like your service is important and that they can actually benefit from it, you're not going to get any sales. You're not going to get any meetings. Well, you might. Like, let's be honest, you might. But it's going to be way harder. Way, 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 way harder than if you actually used a skill to actually leverage all of that volume to make sure that you could get an insane amount of meetings just using your skill. So in comparison, let's say that instead of booking 1,000 meetings and only having, let's say, 100 sales, you could book 1,000 meetings and get 800 sales. So an 8x return just for investing, let's say, a couple hours a day, let's say 1 hour a day into a specific skill. Now, there's also another way to fast track it, which is something that not a lot of people talk about, but you see a lot, is that you can actually outsource this skill. So for example, if you want to make sure that you can actually gain capital to invest in your skill, for example, let's say that there's a program that is $20,000 that you want to buy, that you're so sure that it's going to get you that sales skills, there's a way to actually fast track that as well. So there's something called agencies, right? If you're an agency owner, you probably know what an agency is, right? There's agencies that can actually help you fast track your success, and we're going to get a bit into that into the other part, but it's one of the two things that you can do to invest in yourself. It doesn't have to be monetary, of course. You can read books, you can go out and talk to people, you can invest in yourself by going to seminars and all that stuff. But if you want to actually make sure that you fast track your success, you can also go to somebody that has actually done it before. So for example, you know somebody that has scaled to 10K, 20K, and you know that they can actually do it because you see essentially their results, you see their content, you see everything else, and you're sure that they can actually bring you to that mark, or their offer is absolutely ridiculous that it's too good to say no to. So it's pretty good. So if you want to actually make sure, that's one of the avenues that you can go to as well as going to the avenue of actually investing, let's say in a program or a course, or even in yourself, whether it be through YouTube, through books, or actually going to people. That's one of the avenues that you can actually use to invest in yourself. Now, the second skill that I wanted to talk about is essentially the same, which is copywriting, right? Because copywriting is essentially sales under pen. So you're doing sales, but writing it. So not going too much into the copywriting parts, it's essentially sales itself, just in the writing. But if you had to actually pick two skills to make sure that you won, it would be sales and copywriting, which is essentially the same thing, right? Because it's sales under a pen. So after you actually go into those skills, that you make sure that you actually learn them, there's going to be an 8th point, which we're going to do into now, 9th point, to actually make sure that you can make those work. So in relation to skills, there's another thing that you can leverage to actually make sure that you win, and that is your mental, right? Because you can have the best sales skills, you can have the best copywriting skills, you can have the best time management skills, but if you don't have the actual back end in your own mental to make it work, it's not going to work, okay? You're just going to crumble, your business is going to fail because you don't have the actual back end to make it work. Now, what am I talking about when I speak about back end? I'm talking about your core values, your core mantras, your core habits, okay? Because if you don't have discipline, for example, you're not going to win. And it's not, of course, discipline is something that is needed to be taught, but you can also have it naturally, okay? So if you don't have it naturally, of course, that is something that is needed to be taught. And if you're watching this and you're saying, Ryan, I don't have discipline taught in me naturally, don't worry about it. Because you can be disciplined and you can learn discipline without it being natural to you. Like, there's a bunch of videos on YouTube, there's a bunch of courses, and there's a bunch of other people that can actually tell you how to become disciplined without you having to be a natural disciplined person. So it's like sales, right? There's a lot of people that say people are born with sales, and of course there's a lot of people that are, but it's not something that cannot be taught, okay? So if you're not disciplined, if you feel like you're not disciplined, or if you feel like you could be more disciplined, if, let's say, you did some things in your life, then go do it, for example. And it's something that works in a lot of spheres. If you do something one way, you're probably going to do all the other things that you do in your life that way. So let's say you go to the gym, right? You go to the gym once every morning at 4:30 a.m. that discipline, and that motive, and that habit is going to transfer back into your business. It's just something natural. And if you're saying, Ryan, that doesn't happen, maybe it doesn't happen for you because it's a belief. But in most cases, that actual habit and that belief and that motivation and that drive transfers to other things in your life. For example, if you're going to the gym or if you're doing a sport and you're doing consistently every single day or every single week, you're probably going to do the same thing in your business. For example, if you have to do follow-ups, you're probably going to do those follow-ups consistently because you're going to the gym consistently. If you have to do a set amount of DMs or a set amount of cold calls every single day, you're probably going to do those cold calls because you already have the discipline in your life to actually do those. So, and if you want to list specifically the things that you need to do to actually make sure that you win, and discipline is discipline is the most important one you could have because it's going to help you really win. So if you want a specific list of the things that you actually need to do to make sure that you win, I'm going to give them to you right now. So it's really not long. It's two things. Number one is discipline. And number two is consistency. Okay? Which is essentially discipline. So if you want to win, you need to make sure that you can do that thing on an elongated period of time. Meaning that you can fail for, let's say, 100 days or even 10 years, but you'll keep going because you know that you need discipline, you know that you need essentially consistency. And of course, if it's not working for 10 years, you're probably doing something wrong. Not saying that you aren't, but essentially you need the discipline and you need the drive to actually do one specific thing over a long period of time to make sure that you actually succeed. For example, if you send 100 DMs one day and then do nothing for like 3 days and then send 100 DMs the other day, you're not going to see as much success. You're probably not going to see as much success as the person that sends 100 DMs a day consistently for months on end without stopping, without any compromises. So that's one of the big points of it. So if you want to learn discipline and consistency, it's very, very simple. Just go on YouTube, go watch books, and learn it. Because it's not going to be something that you walk to Starbucks, as said, and it's simply going to be appeared on the ground or just given to you. You need to actually find it. You need to work for it. You need to be consistent for it. And you need to have discipline. Now, one other thing I said that you can do to actually find that discipline, to find that motivation, well, not motivation, but consistency, is do something consistently in your life that you like. For example, me, myself, I liked going to the gym. I still do. And one thing that really helped me in my whole business is that I consistently went to the gym every single day. I went, and I still do. And it helps me like immensely. Because if you're doing something consistently in one aspect of your life, you're going to do other things as well with a crazy discipline, with a crazy consistency, and most of the time actually matching the consistency that you have in that other discipline in your own business, which is going to be absolutely astronomical if you're trying to win. So that's for the ninth part. So in relation to the actual skills that you need, now we can actually get to the niche picking part after 25 minutes of the video. So the way to pick your niche is very simple, okay? I know you guys were waiting for this for 25 minutes or something like that. You want to pick your niche with around 3 to 4 things. And this is used by Alex Ramosi to actually pick his business ventures, and it's very, very interesting. So the first thing that you actually want to make sure of is that the niche has people in it. So more than, let's say, 30,000 businesses to actually reach. So it needs to have actual people in it, and you need to make sure that it's actually a niche that is growing. So people in it is the first thing. And the second is that it's actually growing. So you need to make sure that it's actually not shrinking every day, because if your business is shrinking, if your niche is shrinking, you're going to shrink too, because you can't beat the market, right? If you're on a short boat, like it doesn't matter how small your business is, and the tide rises, your boat is going to rise with it. But if you're in a small boat and the tide goes down, you're going to go down with it. So it doesn't really matter what niche you're in, but well, it does matter. Well, it does matter what niche you're in, just to make sure essentially that you can rise with that tide as well. So the third thing that is very important when you pick a niche is to make sure that a niche has pain, okay? You can't go into a niche where nobody has pain, nobody actually needs your service, and that goes essentially into the product market fit, because, for example, you can't sell water to a waterman because he doesn't need water. he already has water. Or you can't sell doctor visits to a doctor because he already is a doctor, and essentially you couldn't sell him on that. Maybe the best salesperson in the world could, but most of the people on earth couldn't actually sell a doctor on doctor visits, or essentially on getting a new doctor MBA, since he's already a doctor. So you couldn't really do that. Or you can't sell rain to the clouds because they make rain themselves, okay? So you can't sell things to people that already have it. Niche needs to have pain. Now, the fourth thing that you need is that your niche needs to actually have buying power. So, for example, you can't sell a house to a broke person. Even if you give them the best loan, they have no credit score. You can't sell a house to a person that can actually buy it, right? You can't sell it to them because it's not going to make sense for you to actually waste your time going to a person which doesn't have money to actually sell them a house. You'd be better off just going to a person which actually has money and selling them the house. So you need to make sure that your niche has buying power. Now, the fifth and last thing is that you need to make sure that the people in your niche are easy to target. For example, I'd say it'd be easier to target somebody in a med spa than someone who's a president. Because even though you can target somebody who's a president, there's not as much residents as there's people running med spas. And there's not as much ways of actually contacting the president as there is of contacting a med spa. So that's essentially the fifth and last thing that you need to make sure that your niche is going to be the right niche. Now, after you pick your niche, and if you're thinking of switching niches right now, you need to keep yourself in your niche for the longest period of time. So you can go into your niche for, let's say, 1 year, or even like, let's say, 6 months. You need to make sure that you're going to be in your niche for the longest period of time. So whether that be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years even, don't be switching niches because it's going to be a net zero decision, right? Because all the essential things that you've learned in that specific niche about that specific prospect, about that specific problems, is just going to go out the window. Because you're going to go into a completely different niche with completely different people. Maybe you're not, but most of the time that's what people do. They're going to go into a completely different niche. Let's say they were targeted plumbers, now going to go target dentists. And you're going to go into a completely different niche with completely different problems, with completely different ways of selling. And it's just going to make your life way harder. So you want to make sure that you're actually going to a niche which you can actually plan to stay into for a long period of time, that you're comfortable staying with in a long period of time, and that is growing, to make sure that, let's say, in 15 years' time, you don't actually need to switch niches because your niche is dead. Okay? So, coming to the 12th point, which relates to the 11th point, which is staying in your niche for a long period of time. We're playing chess, not checkers. Okay? If you look at the biggest companies like WPP, which some of the biggest marketing companies, if you don't know them, go Google them up. WPP, Publicis, Omnicom, they've all stayed in their niche for tens of years, right? They didn't switch business model. WPP wasn't a marketing company, then a trucking company, then an aviation company, then a restaurant. No, they just said a marketing company. And they stayed in relatively the same niche for a long period of time. Now, that's the game that we want to play. We can't switch business model. We can't go from SMMA to dropshipping to FBA to a bunch of other niches. No, we need to stay in the same niche to make sure that we outpace everybody else, and that when we actually gain experience and that other people are constantly going back to other niches, we can actually grow. And over a long period of time, we create such a big gap that those people constantly coming back to old niches can't even get to the level that we're at because we constantly stayed disciplined and consistent. So it's very, very important that we plan to stay in the same niche for years and 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 years on it. Okay? So after this, the very specific thing that I want to explain regarding this system is the road trip analogy. Okay? So let's say that you're in New York right now and you want to get to Los Angeles. Okay? You're driving your car. You're driving your car. You're not going to go to, let's say, Maine just to go to Maine, or just because you heard that Maine was better than Los Angeles. You're going to keep driving to Los Angeles. You're not going to stop and say, oh, I'm going to go to Maine, or oh, I'm going to go to Vermont, or oh, I'm going to go to Houston. No, you're just going to stay on the road to go to Los Angeles. Even though you might do some stops, you might stop to rest, you might stop to go to the toilet or to the restaurant, you're going to stay on the same path. Because it wouldn't make sense if your goal is to get to Los Angeles, to go to Maine, to go to Houston, to go to Vermont, to go to Detroit, why would you do that? There's no real reason why you would do that. Even though you heard that, let's say Vermont, let's say Houston was better, you would stay on your road to go to Los Angeles because that's where you want to go. That's where you were headed to go. So don't essentially just switch your whole itinerary just to go to another place because you heard it was better. Keep your eyes focused on the road and go on the same road that you're trying to go. Don't go to Vermont because you heard it was nice. Don't go to Maine because you thought it was nice. Don't go to Houston because you thought it was nice. Don't go to Detroit because you thought it was nice. Don't go to Las Vegas because you thought it was nice. Keep on the same road that you need to go to Los Angeles because that's where you were headed. Okay? So after these points, which are very, very important, that you need to stay on the same path for years and years on end, we're going to go into debunking the general niche bias. So a lot of people might tell me, look, Ryan, I don't want to pick a niche. I'm going to go into a general niche. I'm going to go into a niche where I can service everybody. Okay? Now, some people succeed in this. I'm not going to tell you that people don't succeed in this because that would just be straight up lying. Okay? And I'm not the person who lies. So you can go into a general niche, but I'm going to tell you that it's going to be way, 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 way harder if you're just starting out than picking a niche. That's for a couple of reasons that I'm going to go into right now. So the first reason is because every prospect has a different problem. And I should say every niche, because in most niches, most prospects have a similar problem. So if you go into tens of different niches and you're just trying to target everybody, it's going to be the case that it's going to be way harder to sell, way harder to get on calls with people, and especially if you're doing cold outreach or you're doing outbound outreach, it's going to be way harder to actually convince people that you can help them. Not only because there's a bunch of other marketing agencies, and not to be racist or anything, and I'm not racist, of people in India and Bangladesh and Pakistan just doing the same thing that you were thinking about, going into a general niche, but you're just going to be like one of the others, right? You're not going to have a specific system to help with the specific problem, and you're just going to be seen as another marketing agency, right? The thing with sales is that you need to understand that people buy out of pain. If they don't have pain, they're not going to buy. And we're going to go into this very, very soon, explaining why people will not buy if you're just another marketing agency, or you're just another sales coach, or you're just another one of the other people that have actually outreached to them or contacted them or that they've seen. Okay, so if you're doing outbound, and I know you're going to be probably doing outbound because if you're doing ads right now and you're just starting out and you don't have a budget of over 3K, it's probably not worth it. Okay, so if you're doing outbound right now, you want to make sure that you pick a niche for multiple reasons. And the next reason I want to explain is very, very important, is that you're going to need to constantly be switching your offer. Okay, if you're going to go into a general niche, let's be honest, you're not going to have always the same offer. You can't sell 500 appointments, 500 clients to a restaurant and to a med spa, because 500 clients to a restaurant is pretty realistic because a lot of people come into a restaurant. It's not a $2,000 product. But if you're going into a med spa, you can't really get 500 people into the door. So if you're constantly having a different offer, it's going to be the case that you can actually track your outreach the right way. Because one of the most important things when it comes to actually outreach and when it comes to your niche, I know it's a bit of a video that goes everywhere, but if you can't actually track your variables well within your outreach, you won't know what to actually change. If you constantly have a different offer, if you constantly have a different opener, if you constantly have a different way to actually drive pain into somebody, you won't actually be able to know what works. So if you're going into a general niche where one day you're targeting truckers, the next day you're targeting dentists, the next day you're targeting restaurant owners, you won't know what actually works to get those people in. And not only is going to be really, really hectic in your mind because you're going to have like a bunch of different people in your feed and you're not going to know really what to go with, but as well, when you're actually doing your outreach, when you're figuring out who to target, you're like, okay, so today I want to target truckers. Okay, but the next day I'm going to have to target somebody else. So I'm going to have to find new hashtags, going to have to do new ways of actually doing outreach because these people aren't on Instagram. I'm going to have to go on email and especially I'm gonna have to do this specific opener just because these people are older. It's gonna be a real mess. And if you want to complicate your life, go for it. Because honestly, like, I can't tell you how to live your life. But I can advise you, if you want to have a simpler life, a life where you can make a lot of money, it will be way simpler if you pick a niche. Way, way, way simpler. Because trust me, I was in your position, like, let's say a few years back. I think it's 1.5 years, almost 2 years now, where I was just targeting everybody. Like, let's say one day I was targeting automotive dealers. The next day I was targeting jet ski rentals. The next day I was targeting restaurants. And it was so hectic. It was so hectic because I had to do specific offers. I didn't really know what was going to work with some people because, let's say, you can't sell patience to a restaurant because that doesn't really make sense. You have to constantly switch your offer, your openers, your whole script, and it's really hectic. So if you want to have a life which is calm, and you might say, Ryan, it's hectic in the beginning. It is, but it's also really streamlined. It's very simple to make sure that you actually gain money. You just have to send a couple outreaches a day, do a couple meetings, and just close people. But if you're constantly having a mess in one of the parts of your business, it's going to be a mess in the others as well because, and it's a very important point, you're going to have a nightmare. And I want to say a nightmare because if you're just starting out in the agency space, not saying that you don't know how to do service delivery, but a lot of people don't know how to, you're going to have a nightmare in service delivery. Because delivering clients for a restaurant and delivering clients for an automotive dealership is not the same thing. And delivering clients for an e-commerce brand and for a plumber has almost nothing in common except for the ads, right? So you're going to be in a situation where your life is going to be very, 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 very complicated. Because you're going to have to learn skills a whole other different way than if you were doing one niche. Because you can learn how to do service delivery for somebody in the med spa niche and just replicate that into the others. And I have a lot more time because it's essentially copy and pasting. And then you can do a brand new system for every new client. And that's going to mean that you're going to be doing less outreach since you're going to have less time. You're going to be having less clients because you're doing less outreach. You're going to be having a lot of a harder time actually selling clients because your clients, you can't actually make a guarantee that you're going to get them a specific amount of clients because your service delivery is not proven. And essentially, you're going to have a lot less money. Because if you're not closing as many clients, if you're not doing as much outreach, if you're spending more time on the actual delivery instead of actual outreach, you're not going to see a lot of clients. Because time is money. If you're putting your time on other things that are not as important as actually having those clients, it's going to be really, really hectic. Now, I want to bring up the point that in the future, you can go wider, but from what I've seen from agencies that have hit 7, 8, 10 figures, you don't need to go broad, right? You go broad once you've kind of reached the cap in your market, and even though the cap really doesn't exist, but it does exist in some cases, that you've reached the market size in your market, you're like, okay, if I went broad, I could make more money. For example, Alex Ramosi started in gyms, okay? He was making podcasts for gyms. He was helping gyms essentially make more money. And after he actually learned the skills and he made a lot of money with Gym Launch, he transferred into Allen and Prestige Labs, of course, a lot of other business ventures. But then he actually went into a more general space with Allen, starting with Allen, which is a software company for agencies. And then he went to acquisition.com, which helps multiple companies actually scale. It doesn't have to be a specific gym, or it doesn't have to be specific brick and mortar. He helps a lot of businesses scale. So you need to actually gain these skills, first of all, with kind of like an easier business venture than going completely broad, because it has a lot of less operational drag, meaning that you can scale it way, way more easy than if you were to do it broad. And it'll help you make way more money way faster. So it's very, very important that you don't go broad right off the bat, because it's going to be a nightmare, a true nightmare. Okay? So after this, I think I already debunked saturated niches. But there's no such thing as a saturated niche. Okay? There's only saturated methods. Because you can go into the most saturated niche. Let's say you're going into selling crypto to 40-year-olds or to 50-year-olds, okay? Which is, don't scam people. If you're planning on doing that, please don't do it if you're a scammer. But if you're actually helping people with crypto, and I'm not suggesting that you do, you can go into crypto and you can find a new way of actually getting people to your company without having those spammy crypto messages that we all get. I'm sure that you got them as well, of people saying, oh, you can make $10,000 tomorrow and you only have to pay me 30%. So don't do that. Instead of doing that, reverse the message and say something along the lines of, hey, John, you're a single father. I actually found a new way for you to get $30,000 within the 6-month period. If like you're investing, like not investing, don't say investing because that's just a red flag, and I'm going to explain this. And you're going to be able to essentially make more money for your family, which is a pain point. So what you want to do specifically is that you want to reverse the things that your prospect sees. And we're going to go into this very, very soon because methods get worn out, but markets really don't. Because there's always new people coming into markets. There are always new businesses opening. There's always people that haven't been essentially exposed to a certain way of actual outreach. And if you find that way of outreach, or if you find that specific offer, or you find that specific method, you're going to have almost 100% chance of actually getting more prospects to your business, getting more clients, or making more money. And we're going to explain this very, very soon. And the reason why you actually want to do that is because of something that I call offer system blindness, right? It's like ad blindness. Let's say you go on a website, and you go on that website, and there's a bunch of ads on the side. You're not going to look at the ads. You're going to look at the thing that you want to look, which is in the center. Like you can see a bunch of ads on the side, but you're not going to see the ads. You're just going to be focused on the thing that you're seeing, which is kind of the same thing with offers, right? Because if people even sense that you're trying to sell them something, like not sense like directly, they might sense it, but they might be interested, they're just going to block you, or they're just not going to reply to your message, because it's like the crypto things that we all get, right? You're like, okay, I see emojis, I see a long text, I see crypto, okay, this person is trying to scam me. And we've all seen it. We've probably all seen it. People telling you, okay, you're going to make 10K within the next 3 days if you just pay me like 10K up front. And I'm like, no, you're a scammer. And it's the same thing with your prospects. If you're saying, let's say, and I've seen this because we've used this, are you open to question? People are going to be like, oh, he's trying to sell me something. He's trying to sell me something. Or like you go to a call and you say, hey, John, how's it going? And you just say, who's running your marketing at the moment? You say the word marketing, they're like, he's trying to sell me. He's trying to sell me something. Because what client in the right mind would call up and ask about the marketing? No client. And I'm not saying that you should act like a client, because that's really not what you should do. That's going to make people feel betrayed, and they're going to not trust you because you've really betrayed them. So, of course, I can make another video on this. That's not the topic about today. So the specific thing that you want to actually do. So yeah, the specific reason why this actually happens, why we all like directly put this crypto things to our trash bin, is because if people have been exposed to a bad experience multiple times, they're going to train their brains subconsciously to actually get those messages in there. If they see the sign of actually being sold, or if they see this kind of scam, their brain is going to go into a mode where their reptilian brain is just going to go into defense. And okay, this guy's trying to scam me. So if you've crafted your scripts on something everybody else uses, it's going to be the case that your prospects are probably going to experience offer blindness or system blindness, because their brain's going to defense mode. And since the human brain is very, very well crafted, it's just going to act out of efficiency, and it's going to make sure that you don't get that prospect. So if you want to make sure that you can actually get as many prospects as possible, you need to actually reverse engineer that thing. Now, what does reverse engineer mean? Well, even myself, I don't know. I just use that word because it sounded fancy. So if you actually want to make sure that you actually get more prospects, you want to reverse it. So let's say that people say, okay, I'm going to get you 10K, and we already went through this, but I'm going to get you 10K in 3 days. Okay, you're just going to want to reverse it. So let's say, John, I'm going to get you, I'm going to make you a really good investment. Well, not investment, don't say investment, as we said, because it just creates that, like, it creates a red light in their mind, and they're just not going to want to buy it. So, and I'm going to go to this after. Essentially, you just want to say, John, I found a way that can actually help your family secure the money for you and your kids for a long period of time. I know you've received these messages a lot, but this is actually proven. You can look at my profile, and I've done this for a lot of people, and it actually works. And they're going to say, oh, okay, I want to learn more about this, blah, 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 and it actually works. So the reason why a lot of people actually don't see success with their messages is because they're using outdated words. So for example, if you're trying to get clients, don't use words like marketing, don't use agency, don't use SEO, don't use website, don't use ads. Maybe use ads, but not at the time that you're actually getting those people. Don't use ads. Don't use essentially any word that they've heard before that has incurred them to actually paying money and not seeing results, for example. There's a lot of agencies that actually scam people, a lot of people that have been burned, a lot of people that don't actually see results for what they paid for, and that don't actually get reimbursed for the money that they invested. So if you're sounding and if you're looking like any of the people that have scammed them, or that even resemble the people that have scammed them, you're going to be put into a box, and it's going to be very, very hard to get out of that box. So you need to make sure that, firstly, you don't get into that box. You don't use words in your outreach. You don't do things that other people do that make them seem like just another marketing agency, because if you do, people are going to have offer blindness. They're going to have system blindness to your messages, and they're just going to think, oh, this guy's just trying to sell me. He's not trying to help me, just trying to sell me, just trying to scam me. And he doesn't actually care about me, but more about his own pocket, which is not what we're going to do with our clients, because we're trying to help our clients. And by that means helping ourselves as well. So you need to make sure that in your niche, especially this is why a lot of people fail, they use outdated systems and saturated systems in a niche, because there's no such thing as a saturated niche. There's no such thing as a niche where everybody will not buy. There's only saturated systems. And if you can create a system which evokes pain and value within a prospect, well, within value to your own system, of course, you're going to be able to actually sell. Because if you don't look like anybody else, if you don't sound like anybody else, well, you can sound a bit like other people, but you don't want to sound exactly like other people, especially people that burn people, that are just other marketing agencies and just act like masses, because you're going to be categorized as a mass. You're going to be categorized as another normie, as another marketing agency. You're just going to end up as a mediocre business owner because you're just doing the same thing as everybody else. So it's not going to be helpful. Okay? So make sure that you reverse engineer, and of course there's going to be a bunch of other videos explaining exactly how to do this so that you guys are not left in the dark about these specific systems. And make sure that you don't sound like everybody else. Okay? Because if you do, you're going to get killed. For example, if you're in the army, never been in the army, I'm not going to say I've been in the army. If you played video games, and let's say that you were playing Call of Duty, and that there was like this weird thing on this map that looked like a person, and it looked like the head of the person, and you were just seeing this, like, I'm not sure that's a person, then you probably shoot it, because you don't know if that's a person or not. You say, oh, if that's a person, I can actually shoot it and kill it. You're like, okay, I'll shoot it, because it looks like a person, it stands like a person, and even though you don't know if it's actually a person, you might say, okay, I'm going to shoot it, just to see. So that's the same thing with prospects. Like, if you look like a person, if you feel like a person and sound like a person, you're probably a person trying to sell them, or just another marketing agency. Okay, I'm going to shoot it. I'm just going to put that message into the garbage. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to see what this guy has to offer, because he probably has the same offer as everybody else who messaged me that I didn't want to work with. So you need to make sure that you don't look like everybody else, to make sure that you actually reverse the system and the efficient system that the brain has created for those people to put those messages, or just like say, okay, do you want to leave a message for the gatekeeper, or just hang up the phone, to make sure that you actually get to say your offer, which is what is going to get people on the call. So you need to break the patterns, okay? Because the brain is trained on patterns. If you give patterns to your prospect, if you give them an input, they're going to give you a subsequent output, which is probably not going to be very beneficial to you if it's the same as everybody else. So you want to make sure that you break that pattern, and that your prospects don't know, well, they do know what is going on. You don't want to scam them. You don't want to take their credit card while they're sleeping. Hopefully nobody has done that. But you don't want essentially to make yourself seem as another marketing agency, or another coach or another consultant or essentially somebody else, right? You want to make it seem like you have a specific system, a specific offer, and that your things actually work. So that that system doesn't actually trigger itself to do something else. Now, the best thing to do this is, from what I've seen, is to do something completely new. Not saying like completely new, like sending flowers to your prospects. Not saying that that wouldn't work, which is actually a pretty good idea if you want to steal this from me. Sending like mail to your prospects. What you can actually do is just create something completely new. Doesn't have to be like, you don't have to message your prospects on fax. You can, not saying that it won't work, but you have to like find a new way to go at it. It's pretty like weird to say that, but you have to find a new way to go at it, because what a lot of people do in the agency space, even myself, I'm guilty of this, I'm not gonna say I'm not, is monkey see, monkey do. Okay? You're like, oh wow, I'm gonna go on YouTube and I'm gonna search, okay? IGDM script. Okay. IGDM script. Perfect. Now what am I gonna do with that IGDM script? Okay, I have two options. Either one, I'm gonna create my own script. Nah. If that, I'm gonna steal the script and I'm gonna actually send thousands of it, as all the other people, almost all, that actually watched that video did the same. So all these people are gonna be doing monkey see, monkey do on every single one of these videos, every single one of these scripts that people are giving them to them. And the thing that's gonna happen is that all these messages are just gonna turn to crap, okay? Because if everybody's doing it, what makes it special, you know? And it's this thing that I hope I'm not gonna do this on my channel. I'm not gonna do this. Well, I am gonna do this to give you guys the systems, but I'm not gonna give you guys these specific like scripts that we use, because you're just gonna go monkey see, monkey do. You want to reverse that. For example, let's say, okay, John, I'm gonna do a pair per result basis, because a lot of people are doing that now. Okay, paper result. Okay, let's think. Paper result. Okay. How could I change it? Okay, so if you're doing paper result, John, what if you actually only paid me when I didn't get you clients? So let's say, well, no, that wouldn't make sense. Let's say I gave you money, John. I gave you money if the limit that we set for that specific day is not hit. So if I said that we would hit 4 appointments a day and we don't, I'll give you $100. How does that sound, John? And you're like, oh, wow, that's pretty interesting. Okay. And what if you actually do get me appointments? Well, John, if you do get me appointments, you only pay on the appointments that I actually give you. But if one appointment doesn't show up, one appointment doesn't actually come, and we don't hit that mark, I'm gonna give you $100. I'm gonna give you $200. I'm gonna give you $300 just for that appointment not showing up. You want to really think with your mind, okay? Because if you're not thinking, you're just dependent on everybody else. Now, what if one day everybody else, God forbid that happens, because I really want people to keep posting. What if they don't post, okay? Or what if what they post is not valuable? What are you gonna do then? You're like, oh man, what am I gonna do? Like, I can't actually go and do things, or you're gonna suck. Now, one other thing, and I want to mention this, is that you can just look at nature. You can look at your life. You can look at the experiences that you see in your life. Like, okay, how can I apply this to our offer? How can I apply this to my business? It's pretty cool. For example, I think it was Friday. I was in carpentry class. I didn't even know they had that at school. Carpentry? Who does that? They had carpentry class, okay? So, in that carpentry class, there was one thing very interesting to me, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm SMMA, we're gonna do woodwork. I was like, why the heck am I doing this? But there was one thing which really caught my attention. It was when the professor was talking, he said specifically, okay guys, so we went to like, I think it was 7 years of like catapults, because we were making catapults, which is awesome if you ask me. We were making catapults and we were saying, okay, so throughout all these years, he was showing us like examples of catapults and we were saying, okay, so we saw that this catapult had actually a problem here where if you shot it too strong, the spoon was actually going to fly with the projectile because it wasn't strong enough. So we actually made that stronger, and we made it so that the spoon would actually stay, and we did it so it was in actually one piece of wood. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Because what he's actually doing and what you can implement to your business, which is very interesting, is that he's just changing variables, right? He's making his like prototype stronger, which is the same thing that you need to do with your DMs. Like, he just basically explained, well, not explained, but he told you how to succeed in business with wood, which is pretty insane, right? He told you how to succeed in business with wood, which is crazy. Because think about it. Your business isn't working, okay? Why is it not working? You look at your business, okay? I can't book appointments. I can't book appointments, of course I can. But you can't book appointments. You can't book appointments. You're like, well, you can't book appointments. I hope you can. You're like, okay, how do I book appointments? And you're like, wait, why am I not booking appointments? Okay, what is appointments? Why do people book appointments? Okay, why am I not helping people book appointments? Okay, I found a solution. My scripts suck. I'm gonna make my scripts better. I'm gonna make my scripts so good that people feel stupid saying them. And I'm gonna win. That's the same thing that you need to do in business. You just need to iterate and make your variables better over time, seeing what didn't work. Okay? And it's a very, very important part that we're gonna get into now, which is tracking all your data. Okay? Because if you don't actually track your data, it's going to be very hard for you in life. Okay? So, first of all, you want to make sure that you actually track the right data. And then to do that, you need key leverage points. So what is a key leverage point? It's very good that you asked that question. A key leverage point is something that will bring a good, a very big change to your set conversion system that you want. So for example, let's say that you want more appointments, that your appointment booking rate is what you're looking for. So you're going to go and see, okay, what has the biggest impact on my appointment booking rate? Is it the headline? Is it the opener? Is it the offer? And you're going to see, okay, so out of these key leverage points, what if I change one? What would have the biggest impact? And you just go through that and you see, okay, that will have the biggest impact. I'm just going to give you guys exactly the biggest key leverage points that I've seen work best for me. So, key leverage points. First of all, open. If nobody opens your message, who are you going to give your offer to? Second, offer. If your offer sucks, how are you going to book the meeting? Third, sales. If you don't know how to sell, how are you going to make money? So the whole process, like from building pain to building a gap to closing the prospects, handling objections, to actually positioning your product as a valuable solution to the problem and making sure that that gap is as wide as possible. You want to essentially condense that into the sales process and really learn all of that. And then you can actually edit them, like you would in a video game. If it doesn't work, you edit them, because you just need to edit them. So that's the thing. Now that you have your key leverage points, you're going to go into a process, and I want you guys to do this right now. We're going to write the scripts that you have to make sure that you can actually get out of that blindness of the clients not seeing your offer, if that's something that is actually happening to you. So let's say that right now, people are not responding to your offer, or people are not responding to your opener. It can be a couple things. Maybe your profile. Make sure your profile is optimized, of course. And if it isn't your profile, if it isn't that your offer sucks, if it isn't that you're saying like a full paragraph, please don't sell full paragraphs. Just send like 5 to 6 lines explaining your offer and how you can help them and your guarantee and your system. That should be good. And then test it for weeks. Okay. Change. For example, let's say your opener, you got it off a YouTube video that almost everybody has watched, and you're seeing like amazing work opening question or something like that. Change it so that people don't actually doubt that you're somebody trying to sell them. For example, ask a weird question. Ask them like, do you eat A5 Wagyu steak, or do you like A5 Wagyu steak? And then say, you know why I asked that question? Is because if you become my client, which we do on a pay-per performance result, you're going to be eating A5 Wagyu steak for the rest of your life. And just stay here. Don't stay on your chair, but like, tell them the offer. Then after that, they're probably going to answer. So do a question which actually kind of has a relation to your offer. So for example, let's say like you're asking to a person which is cleaning windows. Very good example. You're saying, yo, Mark, you like cleaning windows? He's like, of course I like cleaning windows. It's my job. What are you talking about? Like, okay, Mark, That's great. You know why I asked that? It's gonna go, why? Because if you become my partner on a pay per performance basis, you're gonna be cleaning windows all day. You're not gonna have a day off cleaning windows. You're gonna be cleaning windows 24/7. When it's 2 a.m., windows. When you're with your family, windows. Your kids are gonna be helping you clean windows. That's how much clients I actually bring to you. Yo, when is Christmas? Vacation? Mark, you're gonna be cleaning windows. That's how much clients I can bring to you. You have a full calendar. You can't even sleep. You're gonna have to create another Mark. You're gonna have to birth a new Mark to be cleaning windows. That's how much clients I'll bring to you. You won't even be able to have a sip. You'll be anorexic. That's how much you'll be working because you won't even have time to eat. Of course, don't say that to your clients. This is just an example. But Mark, if you love cleaning windows, man, you're gonna have so much clients. I'm gonna make your life so much better. And the best part, it's all performance basis. And all my days, you can give me 100 clients, and it's all performance basis. Of course, I'm gonna hop in a meeting with you. Why wouldn't I? So you need to make sure that you're. Well, most of the time, it needs to be a question. You can do it. I haven't seen anybody else do it. Well, you can do it. I know Carson Fox does it. You need to do it where it's a question. Okay? Question that hopefully relates with your offer, with your result. You can do it another way. Like, for example, actually, let's not get too much into questions. I'm going to make another video about this. Don't worry, guys. But essentially, you need to make sure that your opener breaks the normal box that people set you in. So don't do the same thing that other people do, or you're going to get absolutely destroyed. So write every single part of your offer that you're currently working with. So for example, let's say you're doing money back guarantee. See if everybody else is doing money back guarantee. If they are, change that. Let's say that you only pay me, let's say you only pay me if you get clients that are worth more than $5,000. So I bring you clients that are under $5,000, you don't pay me at all. Okay? So I only bring you high ticket clients and you'll get all the other clients for free. Just an example offer. You can use it if you want, I don't care. So after you do that, essentially, you want to also see if your offer, your opener is working well, okay? That's really important. You need to track all the data that you're seeing with the new opener and with the new offer. Because if you're not tracking the data, you won't know what works, okay? You won't know if your old offer works better than the new offer. You won't know if the old opener works better than the new opener. So you need to make sure that you track all your data on sheets. And I'm going to give you guys sheets to actually make it work. So click in the description and you're actually going to see the sheet. So if you want, you can check it out now. But essentially, you need to make sure that you have all the data tracked or it's not going to be worth it. And talking about data, you need to make sure that you have enough volume to actually make sure that you get enough data. So if you're sending 10 DMs a day, you won't actually be able to make sure that those actual scripts work, okay? You need to have the volume to make sure it works. You can't do one sales call and see, oh, my offer isn't working good. You need to do tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of sales calls. Maybe not hundreds, but tens to actually decide if that offer is working well or not. So you need to make sure that you actually have that in place. So after that, iteration, okay? This is where I see most people fail because they iterate like madmen. They have no structure. They just go off the cuff. They just say, oh, that feels nice. That looks nice. Let me just change a couple words here and there. No, that's not how it works. What you need to do if you want to win is that you need to change one thing at a time and make sure you track it. So for example, instead of saying, hello, Mark, I say, yo, what's up, Mark? Okay, just to make it seem a bit more familiar. I need to track that and I need to not change anything else in the whole script, in the whole sales process, in the whole offer, just to make sure that if this actual thing works, I can attribute that success to that sort of thing. Because if you change everything at the same time, how are you going to know what works? You're just going to go blind. It's like, you see the snow behind me. There was a snowstorm. It's like going on a highway, completely blind, in a snowstorm. You're almost sure to get killed. Okay? So don't do that. Change one variable at a time, and I don't need to go fully in depth with this. Track one variable at a time, I beg you, and your life is going to be way easier. Okay? So after this, you need to iterate with patience. Don't iterate like 2 times a day. Don't do that. Iterate like once every 1 week or 2 weeks. I say even 1 week is too much. If you're doing volume, 1 week is enough. Like if you're sending 1,000 DMs a day, 1 week is plenty. Even 5 days. But if you're sending like 100 DMs a day, I'd say give it 1 week, give it 2 weeks, and you should be good. Okay, don't iterate like crazy. Don't change one thing every day. Maybe every 3 days if you're doing enough volume, but if not, don't do it because it's not gonna help your life. Okay. So to finish this video off, I want to give you guys 2 things. First of all, is the actual system that I think you can actually use to find a lot of niches which are kind of untapped. Like people don't really know about these niches. Like what? I'm not gonna get one of the cuff right now, but for example, septic companies. I don't think you know people working in that niche. Or aviation companies. I know somebody working in that niche. But essentially, you need to find what you don't need to find. But if you want to find, if you're looking for a new niche right now, if you're already working in a niche, you don't need this. Continue in your own niche. Just do what I told you, and your niche will work. Okay? But if you're just starting out, you are quite not sure of the niche that you actually need to pick, I have a software which can actually help you, and I'll put this in the description below as well, just so you can see it. So, first of all, I want to give you 2 warnings. The first of all is that if you already have somebody in your family running a business, you know somebody running your business, chances are it would be actually better if you go into that person's niche, because you have a person which can actually help you jumpstart. You can just go to that person and ask them, okay, so what are your pain points? What are you struggling with? What are the biggest problems that you faced? What do you think other people in this niche would struggle with? And you can just like fast track your success, even get a client if you're lucky. So that is one thing. And the second thing is if you're working, for example, let's say that you're working in a vacuum company, and that you know a lot about vacuums because you've worked in a vacuum company, go to the essentially owner, or just even go into the vacuum company without even knowing the owner, and just go do it, because you already know a lot about vacuums, you know a lot about the vacuum space, and you can essentially do it, so you won't need essentially a new niche. But if you don't know anybody running a business, I'm sure you do, just look in your circle. If you do know somebody, even like a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend running a business, or you have experience, let's say you like cars, or you like computers, go into a niche that you already know something about. Let's say you like video games, go to gaming cafes. Go to, not Nvidia, because like not like big, well, you can go into big companies like, let's say game publishers. You can do that. Like nobody's stopping you from doing that. It's completely possible. So if you want to do that, because truly, we're living in a sandbox, bro. Like literally everyone around us is NPCs. So if you want to win, just go out in the sandbox, bro. Just do things. Like literally nothing is stopping you. You could go out naked right now. Who would stop you? You know, maybe the police, but like from the action to the thought, from the thought to the action, nobody's stopping you. Like there's not like a invisible barrier that's stopping you. Yo, like you're trying to undress your clothes and your hands just like freeze. No, we're in a sandbox, bro. You can literally like walk in a 3D space and do anything that you want. So just go do things, okay? Take action. So this software is called Sales Genie. It's very cool. You can even script leads off it for free. So I'll send that over to you guys in the description. Record a quick loom so you know how it works. And the second thing, and the second last thing of this 1 hour long video that I want to give to you guys is essentially my beliefs. So getting meetings is very, very easy. And you can get meetings literally within the next day if you do enough volume. So start sending DMs. Use scripts that almost nobody has used before. For example, you can use that steak example if you want, or that window example. Let's say you're in the car detailing niche. You ask John, hey John, do you like detailing cars? Just curious, do you like detailing cars? You can use that. You can use the A5 Wagyu example. Really don't care. I hope you guys succeed with that. And I really do hope you guys succeed. You can use the like, hey John, you like snow? No, you don't like snow. Okay, that's good, because with the clients that you're gonna see, you're gonna be in the Bahamas 24/7. Okay? You can use that example if you want to. Just make sure that it's new. Okay, it's kind of new, and that people don't have blindness to it, because if they do, it's not gonna be fun. You're not gonna see as much results as possible. So, guys, getting meetings is very, very easy. You can do it like literally today. Get a client today. If you're good enough at sales, learn skills. Okay, every niche works. Stay in your niche for the long term, for 10, 20, 50 years. Make sure that you actually have consistency, have discipline to make things work. Make sure that you don't think that niches are saturated, or don't go into general niche because it's going to make your life a living hell. Okay? Probably not, but it's going to make it way harder. There's no saturated niches, only saturated methods. have product market fit. Don't sell water to the watermen. Don't sell AI to AI automation agencies. Why would they buy it if they can't already do it? And use key leverage points. Track all your data. Make sure that you edit the things that actually matter. Your opener, your offer, your sales process, and your sales closing offer. And then after that, do enough volume, track everything, iterate with patience, and start making money. So I really appreciate you guys for watching this video all the way to the end. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos with all of this content-packed value as well. Now, not gonna essentially offer you guys anything, but if you're really struggling for the life of you, you cannot get meetings. I left my Instagram in the bio. Just feel free to send me a DM. We'll just have a quick conversation. And I love you guys to bits, and I really hope you do succeed. And if you have any questions, just drop me a DM. And I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys. Peace.